Part 71. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 704. Finally got a clone. Jia Yan's feeling at this moment was extremely strange. He obviously still felt like he was fighting the smoke monster, but the avatar below was also himself. His step-by-step walking and perspective were very similar to what he felt before his rebirth. Of course, the power of this clone is completely incomparable to that of an ordinary young earthling before his rebirth. Jia Yan's feeling of similarity is just metaphorical. And it's not just the human feeling that's similar, there's also the flesh and blood and bones of the Bella people that were specially commissioned to be used by the researchers at the Institute. They are all very similar to those on Earth. In other words, Jia Yan's avatar has not only a real body, but also a real body. And has a strength that far exceeds that of people on Earth, and is almost not much different from ordinary people on Earth. Jia Yan raised his fist and punched the air in front of him. Boom! Everything in front of him was like the world collapsing, and an invisible cannon appeared on everything on the ground, tearing and destroying everything in front of his fist. The strong man in the smoke above felt the movement below. He fought with Jia Yan for a while and found that the giant mosquito monster in front of him did not retreat at all. Even though it was obviously weaker than him, it was not defeated at all. Means. At this moment he was a little anxious. But sensing the movement below, the monster looked distracted, but his eyes lit up. It was an existence that resembled a man from the Bella tribe. Although his appearance was completely different from Jia Yan, he could tell at a glance that this was Jia Yan's clone. After all, in the eyes of the strong, the energy of the strong cannot be carried out. Covered. Humph, you value this clone so much, I will kill it directly. The smoke monster didn't understand how Jia Yan could be so strong, but he understood what his opponent valued, and destroying it himself might have a miraculous effect. At this moment, the monster broke free from Jia Yan's blockage and slammed into Jia Yan's clone below. At this moment, the face of Jia Yan, who looked like an earthling beneath the earth, became serious. He is actually one person with two consciousnesses. The moment the body above cannot entangle the other, the clone below also understands that the strong man above is coming. Old man, you said that the strength of my clone is about half of the main body, right? He asked lightly. Yes, it's just that the strength of your clone will only get lower and lower, and it can't be obtained again through practice. The white-haired old man who had just climbed up from the ground replied in a daze at this moment, not understanding Jia Yan's question. What means? That's good. Otherwise it would be really troublesome. This human Jia Yan has just finished his meaningless words. His feet moved, soaring into the sky. Boom! Under the earth, a terrifying shockwave suddenly shook the world, and in this shockwave, the tiny figure flew into the sky. His figure was almost invisible, and only powerful beings could faintly see it. Clues. And just above his head, the roaring smoke strongman, a huge body of 200 meters at this moment, countless times larger than this 7-meter clone, is also coming. The giant mosquito that was following behind was unable to catch up and fell directly behind by about 100 meters. Seeking death, the smoke monster saw that Jia Yan's newly condensed clone actually dared to attack him directly, and he suddenly felt angry. You must know that the strength of the clone is generally not as strong as the original body. Jia Yan's original body, even though they couldn't defeat him, this clone dared to attack him. Isn't this seeking death? Is Jia Yan looking for death? Not really. Although he knows that using a clone to attack will cause danger to the clone, there is no other way at this moment. If he doesn't fight, there is only one word of death. The body of 1.7 meters is very uncomfortable for Jia Yan. The 200-meter monster approaching quickly in front of him looks like a flying building in the clone's eyes. Open it for me. When the power of Jia Yan's clone filled his body, a faint azure color came out, and his fists actually had an incredible azure color. This clone actually has the blue defensive qualities of Jia Yan's original body. This is actually a matter of course, because it was Jia Yan who poured energy into it, and the clone is just a substance made by pouring powerful energy into it. Without the energy infusion from the strong, it would be impossible. A powerful clone appeared out of thin air. Otherwise, Taya would no longer be a country nestling in a corner of the northern starfield, but a more powerful country. Naturally, Jia Yan's clone was able to achieve its current strength because of Jia Yan's energy infusion. Even the body did not collapse because of the sealing of the main body's energy. The technology and energetics involved cannot be explained in a few words. In short, the clone at this moment also has a trace of the powerful characteristics of the original body. This does not require any further explanation. And these azure defenses are the real reason why Jia Yan dares to use this clone to fight against the powerful Smoke Man. Boom! The bodies of one large and one small collided violently. The first moment the smoke monster hit, he felt a strong force, which was directly transmitted to his stretched out feet through the ant-sized clone in front of him. Even if this monster had shocked. Impossible. His clone is actually so strong. Fortunately, the power of this clone was strong at first, but after all, it was not the real body. After the first moment of shock passed, I realized that this tiny body could not compare with the real body due to its size and energy. It was impossible. After resisting his strength for about 0.02 seconds, he was directly blown away by his strength. Puff! Jia Yan's clone even spurted out a mouthful of hot blood in the air. Don't even think about pursuing me. And at this moment, Jia Yan's real body behind him also rushed behind the smoke powerhouse due to the delay of the clone, and directly attacked him. The two behemoths once again launched an attack from the air. Humph! Are you looking down on this clone? The clone of Jia Yan was slightly shaken by the blow. At this moment, he wiped the corner of his mouth, and a trace of human blood was wiped off. Even in the battle, he seemed to be moved by this small detail, and sighed that he was still able to. After bleeding out human blood, he took action again. The small body came to the bottom of the earth, and a piece of armor that had been prepared long ago was placed on the ground. It turns out that when Jia Yan and others were thinking about the clones, they wanted to increase the combat power of the clones, and also customized a special armor for the clones. Because the clones are not bulky, they are not complicated to make, and the materials used can also be excellent. At this moment what is placed here is the armor. The one who took it was the white-haired old man. Because the armor was placed in a research room underground, the white-haired old man could only take it out of trouble at this moment. After all, there was no strong man's energy to wrap it up. This seemingly powerful thing, the armor, cannot withstand the aftermath of a strong man's battle. Thank you. Jia Yan's clone came to the armor and lightly pressed it somewhere on the ground. Then it seemed to come to life and attached directly to his body. The old man on the other side was holding an extremely slender weapon, a full 30 meters long, and the whole thing seemed to be very similar to a forefoot of Jia Yan's body. He also took it out and placed it on the ground at this moment. Jia Yan's clone quickly stepped forward, grabbed the slender weapon, and lifted it up in a very unruly manner. In this way, he will have this spear similar to his forefoot, and his combat effectiveness will be improved. To be honest, Jia Yan is still a little unfamiliar with controlling clones, but there is nothing he can do about it at this time. The battle is in front of him. The combat power of the clones is more or less a top-level high-level powerhouse, and Jia Yan controls it alone, which is considered an extreme level. The big assistant, and there is no other way at the moment. I have no choice but to go. Boom. This clone charged directly towards the center of the battle between the two powerful monsters. Humph. You dare to bring this clone to death, then I will let it die. In the battle group above, the smoke monster snorted with great anger. He never thought that a battle that he thought would be easy would turn out like this. Although both Jia Yan's real body and his clone were suppressed by him at this moment, he still couldn't control it. The other party will solve it directly. Boom boom. Taking advantage of the moment when the big mosquito and the smoke monster collided, the human clone that was hiding aside like a small insect moved. The huge spear in his hand thrust out directly, much like the main body thrusting with its forefoot. Find the book garden. Just when the smoke monster was about to make a move, he suddenly found that the giant mosquito in front of him used force and held his body for a moment. Puff! The spear infused with the power of the clone's brain waves directly stabbed the back of the smoke monster's body, leaving a faint wound. Although it was only a minor injury, the monster suddenly felt its body shake in an instant. Poison. He was shocked in his heart, and then an extremely strong sense of crisis made him use unprecedented force and start moving. Although the poison given by this light and shadow monster is terrible, because the opponent is a strong person in the second level, at this moment, it is just a smoke monster that shakes instantly. If Jia Yan is also a strong person in the second level, or even a venerable level existence, maybe he can seize the opportunity, but at this moment, Jia Yan is still not a venerable. Even though his fighting strength has surpassed that of ordinary venerables, he is still not a venerable. In terms of grasping the timing of the battle, he is a little bit behind the venerable. At this moment, Jia Yan's real body was about to launch an attack, but saw a flash of smoke in front of him. The smoke expert suddenly moved around and disappeared in front of Jia Yan. His smoke actually has the ability to move in space, but it doesn't seem to be as powerful as the shuttle combat skill that Jia Yan learned from the light and shadow monster. At this moment, he only moved less than 1,000 meters before his body appeared. After the smoke monster appeared in a flash, it looked at Jia Yan and the human clone coldly. After a moment of hesitation, it turned into smoke again. After turning into smoke several times, he came to his battleship and plunged his body into it. Afterwards, the battleship did not hesitate at all, and dodged directly and soared into the sky. The smoke monster actually escaped before showing any signs of defeat. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 705. Is he a strong person in the secondary level? It's nothing more than that. Neither Jia Yan nor the clone made any move to catch up. After all, the opponent was not without the strength to fight. He just ran away in shock after suffering a small loss from the poison. If he continued to fight, he would have to wait until Jia Yan activated the lost power of the clone recovery, otherwise he would still be at a disadvantage. Haha, Jia Yan, you are able to defeat a powerful person at the next level at the level of a high-level expert. This record is a miracle no matter where you look. If my master knew that he had such a powerful disciple, he would definitely be very happy. The light and shadow monster was very helpless that Jia Yan seemed to regret that he had not completely defeated a powerful person in the second level, because he felt that Jia Yan had not yet discovered how terrible a thing he had done. At the level of a high-level powerhouse, he defeated a low-level powerhouse. This is definitely an unprecedented and extremely powerful achievement. But Jia Yan seemed a little regretful. I still wanted to be promoted to the level of a venerable through this battle, but I didn't expect him to run so fast. The light and shadow monster was speechless. A high-level starry sky level would be a blessing if it could escape with its life in the hands of a strong person from the second level. Is Jia Yan still dissatisfied? Perhaps this is the difference between truly talented people. However, Jia Yan's regret did not last long. He instead guarded the battleship above him in the sky for a long time. It was not until the mosquito felt keenly that the opponent was leaving, that he turned his attention to the human clone. Jia Yan moved the clone's arm. He moved the clone's head again. After a while, he nodded with satisfaction. For him, the existence of this clone was simply a perfect human body. It's just that the energy seems to have been lost a lot after this battle, but it doesn't matter. As long as the equipment is rebuilt, I can use the energy to recharge it. It's like a battery. Jia Yan in the sky was studying the clones, as if he was fascinated, while on the ground below, the surviving creatures were looking at the big mosquitoes above their heads, feeling really unbelievable. This powerful existence that calls itself the giant mosquito clan once again refreshed their knowledge. In the past, Jia Yan was able to fight a venerable and even win by luck. They already felt that the strength of this big mosquito was incredible. Even if a powerful creature of the venerable level really attacked, Huo Liaoxin was not too afraid. But they never would have thought that the attacker this time was a strong man from the second pass, and Lord Jia Yan did not choose to surrender, but actually dared to fight. What made them feel even more cruel was that Master Jia Yan actually drove away the powerful person who had the ability to wipe out the entire Huo Liao star from space. This really went beyond their understanding of strong men. Jia Yan still showed the aura of a high-level strong man at this moment, but they did not dare to think that Jia Yan was really a high-level strong man. Every creature felt that Jia Yan is a low-level strongman wearing the cloak of a high-level strongman. Otherwise, the high-level powerhouses will beat away the low-level powerhouses. No cheap movie in the Northern Star region would be shot like this. In other words, this is really a dream. Oh my god, I haven't woken up from my dream yet, and I actually saw Master Jia Yan knocking away a strong man from the second level. This is too surreal. I'm confused in my dream. Yes, our Lord Jia Yan is very powerful, but is he so powerful that he can defeat a sub-level powerhouse? In the entire Northern Star field, only a half-star powerhouse can defeat him? This is too exaggerated. We must be dreaming. Every being has an unreal feeling about the strength that Jia Yanxi showed at that time. Some starry sky-level beings from Huo Liaoxin used the vibration of energy to confirm whether they were sleeping. But they actually knew very well that they were not dreaming, because a strong man would not have such a ridiculous dream even if he really dreamed. And this scene in reality made them understand what reality is more exaggerated than dreams. Jia Yan actually used a high-level powerhouse to defeat a second-level powerhouse. Although he did not seem to use too glorious means, his strength can still make people think that his strength is not ordinary. There is nothing imaginable. Boss. Are you okay? Just as Jia Yan was in the air, constantly testing his clone's various senses, Kama's communication request came through. I'm fine. Jia Yan looked at his expression and it didn't seem to be artificial. He also showed a smile. Kama saw a man who looked like the Bella clan behind the big mosquito and smiled at her. She was a little surprised at the moment. She had been busy with war affairs and had not seen the true face of Jia Yan's clone who thought about it day and night. Seeing that he turned out to be such an ordinary man from the Bella tribe, I couldn't help but be a little shocked. However, she quickly recovered her composure, and then asked a little weirdly, "Boss, I heard from my subordinates that the person you defeated before, maybe was a venerable?" I said they went too far, don't be angry. How come the venerable is so easy to meet? I have already scolded them. This must be a high-level strong man sent by Taya Kingdom to test your strength. These subordinates do not know the division of strong men's strength. They must be high-level and even His Holiness can't tell the difference. Kama said this deliberately. In fact, the news she heard was that Jia Yan defeated a strong person in the second level, but this scene was too dreamy. She felt that even if Jia Yan was strong, it was impossible to defeat a strong person in the second level. After all, although the strong person in the second level is not much stronger than the venerable, he is still enough to deal with two extremely powerful lords at the same time. Jia Yan's ability to leapfrog and defeat the weakest venerable is an amazing feat. Defeating the second level strong man, that is simply impossible. But her remarks were directly denied by Jia Yan with a smile. They said I defeated the venerable? They are indeed wrong. Jia Yan didn't wait for Kama to nod and say something, then continued directly, the one I beat away was not the venerable, but the venerable. A strong person in the second level. This strong person probably misunderstood me and wanted to go against me. But I have already beaten him away, so he will not show up easily. Don't worry. Karma didn't finish spitting out in one breath, and was stuck now. Her face turned red from holding back. After finally regaining control of her breathing, her eyes widened. Really, is it really a strong person from the second level? Boss. You can actually defeat even a strong person from the second level? I'll go, it's so fierce. She was almost jumping with excitement like a little child. You must know that the war in the Pacific Kingdom at this moment has reached a state of tug-of-war. Although Kama's tactics are powerful, it is difficult for a clever woman to make a meal without rice. Her more important position is that of a coach sitting in the command seat, so personal command abilities don't help much in the overall war. And Jia Yan, who might be of great help to the war, refused to participate in the war. Instead, he was tinkering with some kind of clone. Kama didn't know how many times he heard from some older Taia soldiers complained that Jia Yan, a strong man, could not play any role in the war. But if the news spreads that Jia Yan can defeat a strong person from the second level, then not only the Taia Congress will be greatly shocked, but even some surrounding forces that are ready to move will be shocked. You must know that that is a strong person from the second level. By the status of a Jiguan strongman in the northern star field is almost the same as that of a half-star strongman. Although their strength is not as earth-shattering as that of a semi-starry level strongman, they are not as powerful as a semi-starry level strongman. There are a lot of restrictions on taking action. 300 years ago, there was even a precedent of a strong man in the second level who was hunted for decades by a half-star strong man who is still alive, and finally managed to escape from the northern star territory. Now you know how terrifying the strong men in the secondary level are. And Jia Yan actually defeated a strong person from the second level. A second level powerhouse whose status is basically equal to that of a half-star. If this news is passed on, half of the army of Taia Kingdom may immediately be in an uproar. After that, half of the already swaying stars will switch sides. The giant Mosquito fleet is likely to get out of the predicament immediately and directly occupy most of Taia Kingdom. You might as well come down. Just follow what they say and treat the being I defeated as a venerable person. I don't want to provoke a sub-level powerhouse or even a half-star powerhouse just yet. Just when Karma was having her whims, thinking that when this news was passed out and a large wave of Taia Kingdom's land returned to her hands, Jia Yan suddenly said a word and brought her back to reality. Boss, you don't want to? This. Kama was startled, then seemed to think of something, and then calmed down and nodded. That's right, our fleet is an outsider anyway, and it caused disturbances in the Pacific Kingdom. It's too big. At this moment, I heard that some forces want to attack us. If it is spread that your strength is so terrifying, then the existence that attacks us may rise to a higher level. If it is not spread, it will be correct, but didn't you just beat that strong man away? How could he not pass on this news? No, how could there be any rumors that a being would be defeated by a high-level strong man? And this strong man seems to covet something of mine, let alone talk nonsense. This time the failure was just a small mistake. He must have felt that he had a chance, so he would not pass the ball randomly. Jia Yan shook his head. After closing the communication with Kama, Jia Yan thought about the battle with the strong man in the smoke, and seemed to have some insights. He also understood that this strong man was actually because of the unfounded secret of promotion. Do something to him. I can't say that I haven't grasped the treasure of promotion now. After all, the senior light and shadow monster can be regarded as such an existence. I didn't expect to be mistakenly hit by the rumors that started circulating in this desolate galaxy. But if this if Guan Zhengzhen really spreads this point, then in this northern star field, I might be favored by real semi-stellar beings. After all, no matter who is strong here, it is necessary to achieve the star level. Extremely caring. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 706. Jia Yan shook his head helplessly, but he didn't dwell on it for too long. When something really happened, it could only be covered up by soldiers and earth. As long as he could become a venerable person as soon as possible, he might at least have it by then. The ability to escape. Okay, that shouldn't come so soon. What I want to pay attention to now is the matter of the clone. Jia Yan put aside other thoughts, and then looked at the clone standing proudly in the void. Next, there is the progress of the Space Research Institute. As long as there is success there, Jia Yan will really have a chance to use another. Maybe there is a way to return to the hometown that I miss so much day and night. Time passed quickly, and the rumor that Jia Yan, the absolute strongman of the giant mosquito fleet, actually defeated an incoming venerable level strongman in the Taia Kingdom's base camp, went crazy. Generally, the news spread across the entire star field. In the past, Jia Yan had the experience of killing a venerable person in public. Although most forces believed that he used unique techniques, when the rumors came out this time, all these beings shut up. Because in these rumors, some say that the person Jia Yan defeated was not a venerable at all, but a powerful person from the second level. There are quite a few power spies on the Huo Liao star. Although no one believes what they say, thinking that these spies are just too low level and regard a venerable person as a powerful person in the second level, this does not hinder Jia Yan. A powerful manifestation. After this battle, no one will doubt that Jia Yan's strength is at the level of a high-level strongman. The strongman who attacked is at least a second-level strongman. Some forces even listen to the description of this strongman by witnesses. Finally, I was completely speechless. Because they really know the identity of this strong man, what kind of venerable he is, but the real second-level strong man. Of course, the giant mosquito fleet released smoke bombs, saying that the attacker was a venerable, and now the other forces had some reasons to be suspicious. And these time differences are what Jia Yan wants. On Huoliaoxing, the reconstruction work is in full swing. Because of Jia Yan's protection in this battle, although the buildings and ground were severely damaged, there were not many casualties, and most of them were injured. At this moment, the entire Huo Liao star's work enthusiasm was driven. After all, Jia Yan's strength was confirmed, so there was not much doubt about whether the giant mosquito fleet could defeat Taia Kingdom, with the help of such a terrifying strong man. It is abnormal that the giant mosquito fleet cannot win. Jia Yan, on the other hand, arrived in another land that was not affected by the war. This is the Space Research Institute. Sir, we have calculated the size of your avatar and are now working hard to adjust the relevant spatial values. Please rest assured, our machinery can be adjusted on time. A female researcher at the Institute of Space Studies is convinced. The person next to him was not the giant-headed Jia Yan, but a being who was smaller than most of the Bella tribe members present. He has black hair and a plain face. Although he is smaller than the Bella clan on the side, his magnanimity far exceeds that of everyone present. This is of course Jia Yan's clone. At this moment, his body is already under a certain volcanic land in Huo Liao star, looking for an opportunity to break through the venerable. Anyway, there is not much difference between the clone and the real body. Even the combat power is not. It is enough to resist a venerable person for a long time, so his appearance is no different from the appearance of the giant mosquito's true form. Okay, I'll trouble you. After Jia Yan said this, he left with some anticipation. He was still getting familiar with his human body. At this moment, he understood that he had completely possessed a human body again. Although it was just a body that needed to be replenished with energy from his real body, it was enough to surprise Jia Yan. However, after being with the giant mosquito for a long time, he still had some unclear control over this clone when he first obtained it. After another 5 or 6 days here, it started to look a little better. The tiny figure soared into the sky. This clone of Lord Jiayan is different from us. Even though it is smaller than us, I can hardly stand the power of it even if I look at it. A young male from the Bella tribe in the research institute caressed. He stroked the sweat on his forehead and said with some fear. That's why I didn't target you. Don't you know that the enemy I actually defeated before was a strong person from the second level? You must know that the strong person from the second level is the top existence in our northern star field. Even if he is just the clone of the real body, can be used if there are enough materials. If you want to kill you with just one look, it is just a matter of whether you are willing or not, the scientific researcher on the side said with some ridicule. My lord, did you defeat a strong person from the second pass? I really don't know this. Please tell me. The young man who spoke obviously didn't know the inside story and asked in shock. Okay, don't delay your work. Let's talk about Mr. Jiayan's affairs after get off work. Now is not the time to chat. The head of the Women's Research Institute angrily cursed at the young people who were talking. When the two researchers saw her opening her mouth, they quickly moved their hands. Time passed quickly again. Jiayan has been acting as a clone during this period. Although it is not easy to control two bodies, for him, the overall feeling at this moment is already there. As long as he is not practicing with his real body, if it is too difficult, it will not affect the clone's actions. Of course, you cannot continue to use the clone at critical moments because the impact is too great. Let's proceed with the progress of the war like this. One day, Jiayan used his clone to handle affairs in an extremely tall building. When the real body entered, the 300-meter-long and wide hall would appear to be narrow, but the clone was almost like a very large space. In front of the large table in the center, a pile of documents were placed, and he was doing his best to process them. After all, the giant Mosquito fleet is still Jiayan's fleet, and there are always some documents that need his processing. Just when Jiayan finished signing a document and breathed a sigh of relief, his communicator rang. Huh? The space transmission device has been fully tested. When Jiayan's clone heard the news, he stood up directly. At the same time, his eyes flashed with excitement. The completion of the ultra-long-distance transmission device, whether the transmission is successful or failed, means that he will truly take another step closer to his hometown. Now he couldn't sit still anymore, so he simply put down the work in his hands. The next thing could only be done by his real body. The time for the clone to show his face in this star field was over. He will fly to the distant star field. Not long after, at the Space Research Institute, two bodies, one large and one small, flew slowly towards us. Compared with the giant Mosquito's real body, Jiayan's clone, which is only 1.75 meters tall, is not so eye-catching, but the energy fluctuations flashing on the surface of his body are still extremely strong, and even a look in his eyes can make the world level. The existence was directly shocked to death by the power of brain waves. At this moment, Jiayan didn't show much of his power, because the researchers below were all the existences he needed to thank. At this moment, Jiayan's true identity slowly approached the place, looking at the huge building below. All showing some excitement. My lord, you are really looking forward to the super long-distance teleportation. The researchers below all felt that Jiayan attached great importance to this transmission. Sir, if we don't live up to our trust, this is our final result. The female person in charge came out of the crowd at this moment and came to the ground to look at Jiayan's true form and clone. Okay, you have done a good job. As long as this is successful, you will all be rewarded. The clone Jiayan praised these hard-working researchers very skillfully. Everyone discovered that after Jiayan had this clone that resembled the Bella clan, he rarely used his real body to communicate and seemed to prefer the appearance of the clone. Of course, no one knew what Jiayan's purpose was. Just like they don't know Jiayan's intention of sending his clone more than 10,000 kilometers away, because no one knows what is there. Some people even speculated whether Jia Yan came from there, but no one thought that this guess could be true, because they had never heard of any civilization that had reached there thousands of light years away, nor any the deeds of the people spread out, and it is not even known whether there is life there. Fortunately, they don't have to think so much, they just need to complete the tasks assigned by Jia Yan. When they came to the ground, Big Mosquito's real body was behind him. He didn't speak, but the humanoid Jia Yan, as his clone, stepped forward. Conversations were held with the leadership of several institutes. Sir, according to our data, these 2 days are the best time to send, because even if there is a vacuum in the universe, it is relatively calm. But when the span reaches such a huge span, it is very difficult to send safely. The environmental conditions are good, and the data we have monitored these days are the days that are most consistent with transmission. Researchers don't always talk too much. The female person in charge didn't say a few words before she said to the clone in a hurry. "Oh. If you promise that there is no negligence, then you can launch it now." Jia Yan's clone showed a trace of thought. "You have to leave early and leave late. If you have a chance now, then give it a try." Jia Yan doesn't want to stay in the Northern Star territory even for a minute now. Even if it is just a clone that returns, it is actually the same as the real body returning. Jia Yan was a little excited at this moment. "Okay, sir, if you are willing to transmit it now, we will collect the data and start preparations." "I believe there will be no mistakes," the female person in charge said with determination. "You must know that they have conducted several unmanned transmission tests before, from near to far, and the signals every time showed no mistakes." Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 707. The only thing we have to worry about is whether Jia Yan's clone's physical condition is too strong, and it carries incredible power, which will cause vibrations in the space and lead to some unpredictable consequences. Of course, they have also calculated these things, so it is unlikely that an accident will occur. "Master Jia Yan, please come this way." Jia Yan's clone and a group of scientific researchers walked towards the huge equipment on the side. At this moment, the big mosquito was waiting. After all, there was no place where his huge body could fit in. Jia Yan's clone and a group of scientific researchers came to the inside of the huge equipment. They saw that pipes and metal were intersecting everywhere, and there was not much aesthetic feeling. "Sir, this device was made using the largest nuga. Although it looks like this at the moment, if we continue to improve it, we are sure to shrink it in 10 improvements and reduce the cost by more than half." The female person in charge introduced it to Jia Yan as she walked away. It was obvious that she didn't want Jia Yan to use this equipment only once, otherwise they would lose their jobs. "Okay, I understand. You can continue to research in the future. I think your research may be helpful to my strength." Jia Yan nodded. Hearing what he said, the female researcher smiled. She knew that Jia Yan's clone and his real body shared the same mind, and she was not afraid that the real body outside would not agree. Not long after, a group of people came to the central area of the equipment, where there was a small space capsule that could just accommodate Jia Yan's clone. "Sir, if you are sure to teleport now, you can enter. We will conduct some tests, and then you can teleport through space," the female researcher said. Just now Jia Yan took a deep breath. Then his figure moved, and in the next moment he had entered the space capsule. He actually wanted to see the results more than these researchers. The researchers began to get busy. They originally planned that Jia Yan would wait for a while before transmitting, but they did not expect that Jia Yan simply said to transmit directly, so they were not ready. However, the machine, which was ready for transmission at any time, quickly started operating. "Sir, we are going out. We will be able to teleport in about 2 minutes. During the teleportation period, you must not use power, and you must even try your best to block the power. Otherwise, it will be very dangerous if it causes space shock." After the female person in charge said this, she left directly. Jia Yan's clone was in the space cabin, breathing lightly and nervously. In order to completely put his energy on this clone, his real body in the outside world seemed to be in a trance, directly closing all his feelings and focusing his energy directly on this clone. The technology of clones is indeed extremely miraculous. Even if Jia Yan really has a clone, he still doesn't understand the principle. For him, this feeling of two bodies has only been fully adapted to in the past few days. At this moment, the feeling of the clone was maximized. Jia Yan almost forgot about his real body and entered the clone's body directly. 1 minute countdown. The female person in charge over there started the countdown. This moment was an extremely stressful time for the researchers at the Holistic Research Institute. Although every test was extremely successful, it was such a huge event that Jia Yan's clone could be truly teleported. It directly represents their future. If something unexpected happens, no one knows whether Jia Yan, who has suffered heavy losses, will kill them to vent his anger. When the countdown reached 10 seconds, the clone Jia Yan completely used all his strength to seal it. Jia Yan understands the destructive effect of energy on space. Not to mention that his current energy is so terrifying. It is just that if an Earth-level powerhouse releases a little power during teleportation, it may cause chaos in the space and directly lead to space disappears, and people die in space. There are some shortcomings in not being able to transmit the real body. Not only is the current research institute unable to transmit a body as huge as Jia Yan's real body, but the bigger reason is that Jia Yan's real body is too powerful. The size of Jia Yan's body was so huge that even if the institute staff tried their best, they still felt it was impossible to teleport Jia Yan's huge body. The clone tried his best to suppress his own power, and a faint azure color even appeared on the surface of his body. This was because the azure defense directly sealed his body, which could prevent the body from using its power involuntarily in times of danger to the greatest extent. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. At the last moment, the clone looked at everything in front of him. He had a feeling that this clone would never return to the Northern Star territory again. Although the real body was still there, the clone still looked at this place with some emotion, which could be regarded as a kind of farewell. Teleport. In the next moment, a soft low drink sounded. At this moment, Jia Yan felt his entire body tighten. The transmission begins. My target is the Earth, the clone suddenly thought in his mind. But at this moment, everything in the world began to distort in his eyes, and then the space became unstable, and everything in front of him was spinning extremely strangely. Jia Yan was not too surprised, because he didn't know how many times he had experienced similar experiences. Just the moment this feeling appeared, Jia Yan felt a violent pain spread throughout his body. He couldn't help but grit his teeth. The power inside the body wants to fight back or protect the body, but Jia Yan tightly controls them and prevents them from appearing, otherwise the success will be in vain. The connection between the clones seemed to be lost for a moment. Fortunately, Jia Yan's clone's mind became clear for a while, and then a thought returned to the clone. The connection between the clone systems is unknown through which method. Jia Yan has been following for so long, and he only knows that this connection uses the quantum entanglement theory, and the quantum entanglement theory cannot actually maintain communication over distance, but in fact, Jia Yan is not only able to control the clone through the entanglement of energy, but also has the feeling that the clone is almost the same as the real body. Well, Jia Yan can feel that the physical condition of the clone is very different from that of the real body. Although the materials made are almost the best level available in the Northern Star region, for Jia Yan's real body, there is no energy protection. In contrast, it is almost extremely fragile. Traces of blood appeared on the surface of the clone's body, and the space shock suit he was wearing was also a little damaged. Hold on. This level of pain is nothing at all, Jia Yan insisted through gritted teeth. The world is completely different from what it usually looks like, and the entire space capsule is traveling in a twisted space. This was the first time for Jia Yan to go on such a strange trip. Everything around him was so magical. Some of the galaxies were twisted into a long strip. Jia Yan didn't want to be hit by it, so he just had a good time. Look at the next scene. Pieces of stars appeared and disappeared in front of my eyes. He understood that at this moment he had left the Space Research Institute and was sent out by the huge equipment. The surrounding stars were not passing by too quickly, but after a few minutes, those passing stars and even the entire galaxy turned into a paste and passed by quickly. Suddenly a terrifying bright light appeared in front of the eyes, and the twisting space capsule almost collided head-on. Jia Yan was shocked in his heart and was about to use his power to change the trajectory of the capsule. However, thinking of the professors of the Institute's staff, he gritted his teeth and endured it. This collision turned out to be a false alarm. It turned out that the galaxies passing by quickly were just passing by. Now Jia Yan believed what the researchers at the Institute said and became more confident. At a distance of 10,000 light-years, the stars and galaxies are almost innumerable. And all of this seemed a bit small in the twisted space that Jia Yan was moving through quickly. Starlight passed by, and his speed completely exceeded the speed of light. Moreover, the space in front of the space capsule was constantly distorted, and there was a launch time. Pushed by the space instrument, its speed is still accelerating faster before reaching its peak. Jia Yan's clone in the space capsule was teleporting thrillingly, and the research institute here was also extremely nervous. Because of the quantum entanglement theory, the space capsule could still transmit signals to the research institute within a certain range. At this moment, a group of researchers were watching. Data's nervousness was no less than that of Jia Yan. The space oscillation data values are within the normal range. There is a slight deviation in the data, and the space capsule has repaired itself. A black hole reaction appears in front of the space capsule. The degree of space distortion increases, and the space capsule successfully skipped this space area. The thrilling reports made almost all the members of the Institute extremely nervous. Even though they had been tested many times when traveling through ultra-long distances in the universe, some problems still occurred when actually transmitting large amounts of matter. Accident. After all, in more than 10,000 light-years, anything can happen, such as invisible black holes and white dwarfs with extremely strong gravity. There is no way to predict it. Only when it is actually encountered, the space capsule's intelligent program will proceed. Self-escape. Fortunately, 5 hours later, everything was still normal. Okay, in this case, it should be normal. In about 3 months, it will reach 10,000 light-years away. One after another, the members of the research institute congratulated each other. You must know that they have been working in this area for a long time. At this moment, one crisis after another has been overcome. It can be said that the scene that has created a new technological era in the Northern Star Territory is about to begin. Yes, they are the creators. Jia Yan's real body, which had been distracted, also resumed action. After a period of adaptation, he has successfully maintained the method of completely sealing the energy of the clone. At this moment, the real body can still move. Thank you. I will personally hold a congratulatory banquet for you in the future. Jia Yan nodded to this group of excited scientific researchers. After that, his body took off and returned to the magma land. Okay, after arriving at the magma land, I can let my real body continue to practice Breakthrough Master, and focus mainly on the clone. Jia Yan's eyes were full of joy. I wonder if my parents are okay? How are my sister's family, and my sweet niece? I can't wait. Back to Earth, please subscribe to the official version. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 708. The solar system was originally a galaxy that was considered barren and backward. Lockman Novels. But this galaxy is no longer what it used to be. In this starry sky, spaceships come and go. Although the number cannot be compared with the prosperous galaxy, it is not like there is no one flying in the starry sky. Moreover, these flying spaceships are large and small, some are simple, and some are relatively advanced. They all come and go in the galaxy, constantly transporting personnel and collecting resources. But something extraordinary is that each of these spaceships actually looks a little injured, and some even seem to be barely moving. If there is an accident, they may explode directly. You must know that the technological content of these spaceships is really very different from the technology of the Centaur arm, and the reliability of the spacecraft is also very different. Everyone, be careful. Don't be discovered by that damn exploration ship team. If you are chased, don't go back to the team gathering place. Be glorious. The people of the Earth will remember you. A middle-aged man shouted loudly at the outside spacecraft in a dilapidated battleship with some turrets. This is a place near the edge of the solar system, and there are some good resources here. People on Earth come and go here to collect the necessary resources here. But their ships showed that collecting here was not a good option, but these ships had no other choice. Damn exploration ships, if it weren't for the war between these two exploration ships of the Starry Sky Empire, we Earthlings might have already been on the road to true Starry Sky civilization. Several pale men were looking at the surrounding starry sky with great vigilance. The simple spacecraft did not even have an advanced detection system. They could only use their eyes and a simple Earth heat detection system to be vigilant. Who says it's not the case? In the wars launched by the two star empires against our Earth, if it weren't for the help of the assassin again and again, we Earthlings might have perished long ago. The assassin disappeared 10 years ago with Asta during the Battle of Jupiter on the Imperial exploration ship. If he was still there, we people on Earth would never have been so miserable. Who says it's not the case? Fortunately, Lord Wangzhen left behind a few masters of technological creatures and continued to help us develop many battleships, allowing us to block the first wave of small attacks from the Rulan Empire 2 years ago. But recently I heard about the other party's attack. The mothership, which is the semi-combat aircraft carrier of the Rulan Empire, will come to the solar system from space navigation, and I don't know if the Earth can stop it. Don't worry, it is said that Lord Assassin's Earth fleet is coming soon. As long as we Earthlings block it for a year, no, half a year. Block? Haha, you didn't participate in the Battle of Jupiter that year, and you haven't seen the horror of a real semi-combat aircraft carrier. You must know that even the legendary assassin of the giant Mosquito clan at the stellar level felt uncomfortable with the semi-combat aircraft carrier. It's a headache. How can we fight against a semi-combat aircraft carrier? What's more, even if we block it for a year, do you really think that the reinforcements from Lord Assassin can deal with this army? What's more, what are the reactions of these two empires? They may have already formed a real army and are preparing to attack us Earthlings. In the chatting warship, one Earth soldier after another finished their conversation. They felt a huge pressure on their bodies. An unspeakable heaviness invaded their whole bodies, making them almost speechless. But even if they are desperate, in this dark universe, they will not make any retreat. And in the starry sky not far from the solar system, an extremely large ship, a full 10 kilometers in size, shuttled rapidly in the vacuum environment. Master Commander, the first forward team we sent was actually wiped out. The technology of this Earthling has actually improved even more in 10 years. In this huge ship, there are several beings as leaders, and at this moment, a monster that looks like a spider is spinning silk thread while saying to the other spider monster above it with a silk sound. This is not unexpected. The people on Earth must have received the support of certain technological civilizations or forces. Otherwise, the previous semi-combat aircraft carrier of the Asta Empire would not have failed directly. You know, I received this news at that time. We quickly stopped the fleet to rest for a long time. Thanks to this rest, the combat effectiveness of our fleet has improved a lot. I think no matter how powerful the people on Earth are, they can't fight with us. The spider monster above analyzed it somewhat solemnly. These monsters were talking together, and it was obvious from their words that they were members of the Rulan Empire, and this huge semi-combat aircraft carrier was built by Jia Yan before he left the solar system. Another Rulan Empire semi-combat aircraft carrier that I have been worried about is coming to the solar system soon. It is not difficult to analyze from the words of these monsters. It is actually 10 years after Jia Yan left the solar system. It seems that although the passage of the gravitational wave system is magical, it is a huge waste of time. Jia Yan went to the Centaur arm. Bianya only felt that it took 2 or 3 years at most, but the actual time was about 10 years. Okay, we deliberately delayed the attack on the solar system to increase our own force value. At this moment, the combat effectiveness of our fleet is absolutely unprecedented. Don't hesitate, let's head towards the solar system. The leader-like presence in the semi-combat aircraft carrier shouted loudly. And while he was speaking, the fleet's detector suddenly let out a sharp scream. Extremely high space distortion source discovered. Warning, a system alarm sounded loudly throughout the entire semi-combat aircraft carrier. But no matter how they checked, they couldn't figure out where this highly distorted space source came from. Moreover, this distortion source just flashed beside the aircraft carrier. Compared with their speed, which was only about the speed of light, it was countless times faster and passed directly by. What? What is it? The leader-like spider monster was nervous and shocked. Master Commander, this should be an unsolved phenomenon in the universe. It is actually a twisted way of traveling that is more than 10,000 times faster than the speed of light. It is estimated that apart from the weird phenomena of the universe itself, it is impossible for such a high-level civilization to be able to do such a thing. Yes. Sir, we don't need to worry about it. The report from his subordinates made the commander feel a little relieved. You must know that they are just a technological warship that can only exceed the speed of light, and if they want to accelerate to the speed of light, the previous acceleration and engine must be fully turned on. It takes more than a year of operation to slowly accelerate to this speed. The opponent directly exceeds the speed of light by 10,000 times. Although it also uses the technology of distorting space, it is estimated that the actual speed cannot exceed the speed of light, but in his opinion, this terrible technology is definitely a miracle. If they are enemies, there is no need to fight. If they use technology that is 10,000 times faster than the speed of light to make such a cannonball, let alone them, even the capital star of Rulan civilization will disappear from the universe if it is hit. Fortunately, this should be just a strange phenomenon in the universe. This is not surprising, the closer you get to the universe. The more we discover similar phenomena, such as aliens that surpass existing civilizations, and urban legends that superpowers passed through the immortal arms tens of thousands of years ago, but when we actually observe them, we feel that they are all fake stuff. Fortunately, it has no impact on their strategy. But in reality, this extremely fast-moving space-distorting object quickly crossed the distance between the stars. He was like a terrifying thing traveling in a straight line. From his point of view, the semi-combat aircraft carrier was no different than if it was not moving. The other party still had to walk for a while, but this extremely fast object arrived in the blink of an eye. The solar system, has it arrived? Boo! Boo! The soft and crisp sounds sounded extremely clear to Jia Yan. With the appearance of this sound, the entire space capsule slowly showed signs of slowing down. The distorted space showed signs of recovery. The distorted space that had been moving back and forth in front of the eyes for 3 months slowly became normal. At the edge of the galaxy, an ultra-small aircraft, only about 10 meters in size, somehow emerged from the vacuum, as if it were out of the flat sky, and appeared directly in the vacuum. This is an aircraft that looks extremely high-end. The materials used on its surface are definitely advanced materials that this immortal arm cannot have. Not only that, but also its propulsion system and the front end that slightly distorts space. The space distortion system is definitely not something that Yingxian Arm's Starry Sky technology can do. When this small aircraft first appeared, its speed was extremely terrifying, about half the speed of light. But just 15 minutes later, its speed was stopped. You must know that that is the speed of light. Such a small aircraft can travel within 10 seconds. How to stop the speed of light in a few minutes without disintegrating due to the strong overload force? These are scientific research issues that scientists need to study for a long time. But the aircraft stopped very simply, and then the door of the top space cabin opened directly. The space for this crew member is even smaller, and can only barely accommodate an Earthling. And the people inside really looked like people from Earth. This is a person with black hair and yellow skin. Although his face is not handsome, his demeanor is completely different from that of a young Earthling that ordinary humans can have. That's right, he is Jia Yan. After 3 months of space-distorting travel, even Jia Yan's clone felt a little unbearable at this moment. As soon as the space capsule stopped, Jia Yan's bones began to move slightly. There was clearly a vacuum outside, but he moved on his toes and jumped onto the outside of the space capsule. Solar System. Seeing the space scenery outside, Jia Yan's clone looked greedily at everything in front of him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 709. Although the scenery in space in front of him looks exactly the same to other places in the eyes of ordinary creatures, 27 Yan understands that not only is the scenery different here, but he also feels so comfortable in his heart. Although the feeling of energy around him is not as powerful as that of Sagittarius, it is very familiar and comforting. Because this is what home feels like. The flight of the space capsule did not deviate too much. The flight of more than 10,000 light-years actually arrived at the Hercules arm without missing a beat, although there were several lane changes in the middle. And when passing through the empty space between the spiral arms, Jia Yan doubted whether he had flown into a place without matter. Fortunately, he finally arrived at this moment. It's a pity that the real body can't come. If it's just a clone, it's about the same. Jia Yan's normal-sized body was floating in the vacuum, and he looked greedily at everything in front of him. Then he looked at the place not far away with some surprise. They keenly felt that there were some small aircraft thousands of kilometers away, secretly collecting minerals there. Earthlings. They can still collect here. It seems the situation is better than I thought. Jia Yan smiled lightly after feeling these spacecraft. Not long after, among those spaceships, an aircraft that was much more advanced and faster than they knew, slowly arrived. The scary thing is that when such an aircraft arrives, none of these spaceships find it. At this moment, there are thousands of Earthlings in these spaceships. Although they look extremely miserable, in fact they are the elites among the Earthlings, because although there are more and more people coming to outer space from the Earth, but working at the edge of the galaxy still requires high-end talents. Jia Yan came to these spaceships. Although he did not deliberately activate his brainwave power, it was still extremely simple to prevent the other party from detecting his arrival. Even if he was riding a Pacific space capsule, it carried the stealth system cannot be detected by the simple spacecraft of these Earthlings. As soon as he arrived here, he heard some news about the Earth and the war through the invasion of brainwave power. But he didn't listen for long, because the war was much like what he thought. Fortunately, it was much better than he expected that the people on Earth had lost the Earth. The people on Earth actually defeated a small forward attack from the Rulan Empire with their current equipment. Although the spacecraft is not much more advanced than before I left, the quality and quantity have increased a lot. It seems that the people on Earth have not been idle in the past 10 years. Not bad. After hearing the news, Jia Yan's clone started his own space capsule and left slowly. Jia Yan is not worried about things here. Although he had a glimpse before, he vaguely remembered seeing an extremely huge battleship not far away from the solar system. But Jia Yan thought it was not far away, but for this huge battleship, it was not far away. It will take at least more than half a month to arrive. Jia Yan is not worried about him arriving early. If the other party's technology reaches this level, the Earth will have lost long ago. Take the space capsule and continue moving forward, towards the Earth. His current location is the Akobo belt on the edge of the solar system. There is a lot of trivial interstellar matter here, and it is also an important resource collection place for Earthlings. Returning to the Earth would take an average Earthling spacecraft several months or even a year or two. But for Jia Yan, although the space capsule he was riding in was not specially designed for riding, in terms of speed, even most spaceships in the Northern Star region were not as fast as it, let alone such a short distance. However, Jia Yan did not return to Earth quickly, but flew slowly on the way, seeing the scenery he had seen before. The remains of the battle on Neptune are still there, and it is obvious that the people on Earth have not yet arrived here. He wandered around where he fought in space. The figure of an Earthling was just above Neptune, looking at the starry sky where the material was, and the scenes left over from the battle. Then he flew gently, trying to fly over again what he had flown with great difficulty. Starry sky distance, then shook his head. What was once a life and death crisis, for Jia Yan now, even the clone can travel through it with just a thought. After that, without much hesitation, he set sail again. Outside of Jupiter, there are more shadows of people on Earth. There are several large base buildings here. Although they are all very simple, they are all very new to Jia Yan. On Ganymede, there was not much damage in the battlefield at that time. The semi-combat aircraft carrier that Jia Yan had finally destroyed before was actually still there at this moment. However, when Jia Yan flew close alone, he discovered that there were many scientists conducting research there, and there was also an alien scientist from the Earth's forces that he brought to the Earth. Some other astronauts were divided into several parts to dismantle the semi-combat aircraft carrier of the Asta Empire. A large number of small spacecraft were waiting in line to load the materials from the disintegrated aircraft carrier and transport them to Ganymede. It's just that their efficiency is not high, and it will take a long time to completely disassemble them. Jia Yan looked at the scene here with some sigh, especially the location of the Earth warships that were damaged in the battle. Then he shook his head and returned to the space capsule not far away. After this series of actions, no Earthling or alien scientist discovered his existence at all. Even if Jia Yan came to them and listened to their conversation for a long time, no one could detect his existence. The arrival of the clone. This is the essential gap in life. This gap makes Jia Yan feel a little confused. In the Centaur arm, although he was far away from home, there were at least a few beings whose life levels were similar to or even higher than his own. But when he came to Earth, to this heroic arm, he wanted to find beings of the same level as him. Not so easy anymore. Maybe this was the idea of that powerful being who went to Centaur arm back then. There is really no possibility of being powerful in this immortal arm. Jia Yan didn't think too much about this. He just looked at the places where he had fought with some nostalgia, as well as the so-called communication base of Defuni. These were the places he came back to watch. And it only took less than a day to complete these series of things. It can be seen how fast the space capsule Jia Yan is riding is. Of course, this speed is more of a special effect of space distortion. Jia Yan's ship is the latest scientific research result of Taia Kingdom, which is famous for its technology in the northern star field. Its speed may be the top in the entire Taia Kingdom. Jia Yan looked at these places and finally set his sights on the place where he would eventually return. Earth. In the starry sky of the universe, a small figure was flying slowly, with a small aircraft following behind him. In front of this figure is a huge blue star. The blue color on it is extremely eye-catching. Even though I have seen many living planets, when I see this star now, this tiny figure still feels that she is the most beautiful. The most beautiful thing is my hometown. It's so beautiful. Jia Yan's clone looked at the scenery in front of him, almost exclaiming, "Beautiful, really beautiful." It's not just the beauty that the eyes can see, this beauty almost cleanses Jia Yan's soul. The bloody intention of fighting in the outer world for so long seems to have faded in front of this beautiful scenery. He slowly approached this beautiful planet, and then the space capsule following him automatically stopped about 1,000 kilometers away from the planet. Jia Yan doesn't want these ultra-high-tech items from aliens to pollute the Earth's soil. With a feeling of worship, he flew to the Earth in his physical body. Earth, a planet threatened by war, now has a being who has returned in a changed state. In the starry sky, a string of fireballs passed by. No one noticed anything strange about this bolide. On the ground, the entire Earth was in an extremely tense mood at the moment. The appearance of the Earth is different from when Jia Yan was mobilized. After 10 years of changes, the Earth is no longer as monotonous as it was after the Metal War, but once again has diversity, and various industries have appeared in some places. This splendid civilization seems to be flourishing again after a few years of interruption. And it is more civilized and more rational than before. There are many shops everywhere, and the people are prosperous and peaceful. There are just radio channels for war mobilization and recruitment advertisements that can be seen everywhere, but they have destroyed the peace on the entire planet. Because the 10-year period is approaching, and due to the previous attack by the Vanguard forces, the humans on the Earth once again feel the approach of war, and this time, it is still a crisis of annihilation of the race. In a certain Earth city, the entire city here is even more tense, because there are targets here that the enemy will never let go easily, and it may be the first city to be attacked. That is the Geo family that everyone on Earth knows a little bit about now. In fact, many people on Earth know about the existence of the Geo family, but very few know their true identity and recognize them. Perhaps because they have experienced bad experiences in the past, the Geo family is like ordinary people hiding in the countryside, hiding in the city. On this day, a group of 11 or 12-year-old little girls were walking on the road. Haha, Jia, your surname is Jia. Did anyone think that you were a member of the Geo family, the greatest family in the past? While walking, a girl took another girl's hand and asked curiously. Although the girl she asked was only 11 or 12 years old, her face was delicate, with a touch of baby fat appearing on her face, making her already extremely cute look even more adorable at her age. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 710. The girl who was asked what she said was silent for a while, and then she laughed strangely. How is that possible? The Geo family is the largest family in the world, and I am an ordinary person like your family. If I had such a good family background, I would still. Are you borrowing money to buy lunch? There are so many people named Chia, are they all from the Geo family? Don't say weird things, it's annoying. The girl seemed to be explaining in a panic, but the girls who asked the question didn't really want to ask this at all, and they all laughed at this moment. Jia, why are you panicking? Don't be nervous. We are just joking. Hey, if you dare to make fun of me, I won't hit you. Jia rubbed her fists and then ran quickly after several children. What these children didn't know, except for the word Jia, was that there was a secret tracking group of almost a dozen people around them, following them closely. Our little princess is playing with these common people again. It's really boring. I said she is such a powerful brainwave talent and the first person on Earth to cultivate brainwave power. Why? Do you like hanging out with ordinary civilians so much? A man in his 20s, smoking a cigarette, calmly stood above a building, watching the children playing below, and then said helplessly. Another middle-aged man next to him secretly said something bad after hearing what the young man said. He quickly took a step back under the shock of the young man. Before the young man who spoke had a chance to ask him anything, he saw that his body seemed to have been hit by an invisible fist. With a snap, the young man lowered his body in pain, almost rolling on the ground in pain. The middle-aged man smiled and slowly walked forward. "You have just come here. I haven't told you the true strength of little Princess Kikai yet. She has been practicing since she was a baby. It is said that she is already at the mid-prefecture level, and if we say bad things about her within a few dozen meters, she will most likely be heard through her brainwave power. Let me go, I can hear it from dozens of meters away. Although my strength is at the earth level, I haven't reached the earth level yet. I'm really not as good as a genius." The young man stood up while coughing dryly. The middle-aged man deliberately walked to the edge of the building, looked at the girl below, and said jokingly, "Little genius princess, please stop beating him. If he is beaten away by you, I don't think anyone will dare. I'm here to be your escort." Humph! Several guards around seemed to hear a faint snort from a little girl. And just above the heads of these protective beings, what they didn't notice was that there was an entity that had just arrived from the sky at this moment. It was actually standing there in the sky, and no entity noticed his appearance. Well, it is indeed Kikai. It is already 10 years later. She has grown up. My uncle should not have watched her grow up. It's really inappropriate. The man stood proudly in the sky. He looked at the girl below who was playing with her friends, feeling a mixture of relief and regret. I am so happy that this little baby girl has grown up into such a lovely girl in the blink of an eye. It is a pity that his uncle did not play a big role in the growth of his descendants. Don't be surprised by the identity of this being, he is naturally Jia Yan. At this moment, he had a slight control over the entire city. Not only did he know through instant induction that there was a familiar presence here, but he also arrived here in an instant, and then determined the identity of the little girl below. It was Jia Qi, the child of his sister Jia Lin when he left 10 years ago. The little baby girl back then was suddenly transformed into a beautiful girl again. At this moment, Jia Yan couldn't help but sigh. In his mind, he still regarded this niece as a little baby girl crawling on the ground. As long as you find a family member, you can easily find others. Jia Yan walked slowly on the street, holding little Jia Qi jumping with his friends in front of him from a distance, while admiring the surrounding scenery. He remembered that the city was built before he left, and it was also built around the small village back then. But now the entire scenery is no longer the same as it was back then. In just a dozen years, this place has already become a huge city. Jia Yan looked at the surrounding scenery. On the ground, there were not only the scenery of former civilizations, but also some robots cleaning the roads. Although most of these robots were symbolic, they could indeed help human beings in some aspects of their work. As Jia Yan walked, he looked at the surrounding scenery. Some places were strange, while others made him feel nostalgic. However, not long after walking, I saw the girls not far ahead starting to break up. After Jia Qi walked to a road alone, she walked somewhere on the main road. Then she jumped on a very Xihua extended version of the cart. You can tell that this car is bulletproof just by looking at it. It is very attractive when walking on the street. It turns out that this is what she was doing. Jia Yan looked at Jia Qi's pride in exchanging toys with the girls on the car body, and it was a little funny. Sure enough, she is a sister who is a child, and she is a child with a very serious heart. The car drove quickly and then arrived at a private estate not far from the outskirts of the city. When he arrived here, Jia Yan no longer needed Jia Qi to lead him. He had already found the target he was looking for. Dad, Mom. Seeing through his own brainwave power, Jia Yan saw his father watering the flowers in the manor, and his mother knitting sweaters in the big house. There is also my younger sister, who is actually holding another little baby girl who is about 1 year old at the moment, and is talking stories to her. What's going on? There are such powerful brainwave fluctuations. Just as Jia Yan was exploring the manner with a smile, and explaining his identity to his parents and others in an unknown manner, his expression suddenly changed. Shocked. It turns out that at this moment in this manner, there is an extremely powerful brainwave power transmitting out, directly blocking the entire square area. At this moment, because Jia Yan's brainwave power was not aware of the existence of this power, he accidentally touched it. Who? Jia Yan heard a voice that seemed familiar, but he couldn't remember. This power is strong, but of course it is nothing to Jia Yan's clone at this moment. It's just that he is still a little unfamiliar with the power of controlling clones. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the other party to notice it. Of course, Jia Yan never imagined that there would be heaven-level existences on this earth. The other party blocked the energy in that area. Because the energy was not released, it was extremely concealed. Moreover, Jia Yan was using a clone that he was not used to. It would not be particularly strange for him to be discovered without noticing. Boom! A body quickly rose into the sky from the place where the sound came out, and could even fly into the sky for a short time, which meant that it had at least the strength of a heaven-level peak. But for Jia Yan, the opponent's strength is not that powerful. Even if it is a starry sky level, as long as it is not a venerable or a powerful person, his clone can easily deal with it at this moment. In this entire Yingxian, Jia Yan had to consider whether there was a similar existence in the land of arms. It would be impossible to meet a stronger existence than his clone on Earth. The opponent's figure quickly rose into the sky. At this moment, Jia Yan was a little surprised that this figure turned out to be a strong female. Jia Yan was surprised and concealed his own energy fluctuations. Even if he was not familiar with the energy control of clones, he was an existence that almost reached the level of the venerable. It was still very simple to prevent a heaven-level peak from discovering him. Jia Yan was a little shocked when he took a closer look. He felt a little ashamed. It was indeed the first time he saw the other party's appearance, but Jia Yan was too familiar with her energy fluctuations. The long-lasting memories were brought back, and Jia Yan seemed to have returned to what he experienced on the gray-yellow star more than 10 years ago. At that time, it was she who had a huge influence on me. For Jia Yan, this existence is a person of the opposite sex who has some unknown feelings. But the she back then was a terrifying monster called the Diplomat. Find the book. Although she was all white and considered a beautiful animal, it was impossible for Jia Yan to turn her into a monster. Treat it as the real opposite sex. She even told the terrifying story of wanting to give birth to a child to Jia Yan at that time. Jia Yan had a hard time hiding from her back then, and it seemed that it made her very sad for a while. But now, apart from the familiar energy, her appearance has completely changed. Jia Yan looked at the flying being and was extremely shocked. Jia Yan, a great being who traveled across the sea of stars for countless light years, seemed to be unable to recover at this moment. Because this being, at this moment, has a body that is exactly the same as that of a Chinese woman from Earth. She also has an exquisite figure and a face that can be described as a peerless beauty. I fainted. Who told me what happened? Jia Yan was so shocked that his head could hardly function. He had thought that this being who followed Daphne's fleet back then might come to Earth with the fleet, but Daphne hadn't arrived at this moment either. Why did she come first? What's even more confusing is the other person's body. Isn't it a gigantic horse monster? How could she suddenly turn into a woman who looks like an earthling? And she's a beauty. Jia Yan was so stunned that he couldn't describe his shock at this moment. In other words, this dignified being who had half-stepped into the level of a venerable was confused. But something even more confusing was yet to come. When this strong female person rushed out, a little boy of 3 or 4 years old staggered out of the place that was directly covered by energy. "Mom, Wrong wants to fly too, he smiled happily. I'll choke him, ah ah ah. Jia Yan almost yelled when he saw the child. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 711. Jia Yan was not stunned, but was struck by thunder and felt like 10,000 grass and mud horses running past him. The majestic giant mosquito felt as if some of his head had turned into paste at this moment. It was just that this strong female appeared, but Jia Yan never thought that what the other party said at the beginning, that in order to have a powerful child with Jia Yan, collect his biological genes and conceive a child, would actually be true. And me. This is not the child you conceived for me at all, but it is me. Doesn't it look exactly like the photo of me when I was 3 or 4 years old? Me. Jia Yan almost vomited blood. This strong female police officer actually did it, and more than that. It seemed to be a bit of a copycat. Should biochemical gene technology be so awesome? If it's so defiant, even he, a super strong man, has the idea of destroying the biochemical kingdom at this moment. Okay. Sure enough, the child running over there is very cute, but Jia Yan looks exactly like the photo of himself when he was a child, and there seems to be some unusual energy fluctuations flashing in his body. Well, he has actually reached the heaven level. He is only 3 or 4 years old. Maybe he really has some of my talents in his body, but no matter how I look at him, he doesn't feel like he is my child. Jia Yan couldn't turn his head. Coming. The appearance of this woman at this moment directly gave up the idea of meeting his family. He did not expect that he would actually become a father, and it seemed that the father was not a derogatory father. The child seemed to be somewhere. In a sense, it might actually be his own child. But why do I always feel a little weird? Jia Yan scratched his head with his hand, then hid his strength even more, hiding his body tightly, saying in his heart 10 million times that he must not be discovered. The appearance of this pair of mother and son made Jia Yan's joy of meeting his family completely come to nothing. At this moment, he just wanted to stay away as far as possible because he could not accept the joy of being a father at all, let alone what expression to use to show it. Me, I can't understand why I've never had sex with a woman yet I'm actually a father, and this child might really be mine, even the child's mother might be a monster. What is this? Jia Yan hid directly in a forest behind the mansion. Naturally, his strength would not be discovered by the woman. After all, he was a strong man in the starry sky. After the mother and child over there didn't find anything, the strong female slowly fell to the ground, then picked up the child beside her and took her to the brainwave house. Don't panic, don't panic. Jia Yan, you are a great starry sky level high-level powerhouse who has fought in countless places in the starry sky. This trivial matter is not a big deal at all. You must be steady. Jia Yan is hidden in the mountain forest behind the Jia family. In fact, this mountain forest is also owned by the Jia family and is usually used as a place for family members to travel. This mountain forest is very large, with a radius of 3 or 4 kilometers. Normal people are not allowed to enter. There are dozens or even hundreds of people with brainwave power talents at or near the prefecture level here to guard it. Jia Yan first let go of the problems at home. He decided not to think about the things that he couldn't figure out at the moment, but instead went around in circles to analyze the current situation on the Earth. Judging from the treatment the Jia family has received, the status of the Jia family on Earth is still so noble. Although Jia's father and Jia's mother have not become strong brainwave power, their bodies have obviously been conditioned by alien technology. The body not only does not age, but also seems to become younger. The emergence of those who are gifted with brainwave power is part of Jia Yan's calculations, because before he left the Earth, he had already discovered that people on Earth have the talent for brainwave power, or that people on Earth have always had the talent for brainwave power. In the past, these talented people only appeared as superpowers. Just because there is no systematic support, the climate cannot be formed. And Jia Yan can also know from his own feelings when he landed on the earth, and the word Xiao Kakai said to several guards that among the people on earth at this moment, Xiao Qiu may be the strongest. After all, she is Jia Yan was the first to discover the existence of brainwave power, but maybe she was still young back then and her learning ability was not strong. At this moment, others may not be much behind her in strength. As for the strongest person besides Jia Yan, she is not from Earth at all, but the mother of Jia Yan's child. It has almost reached the peak of the heaven level. I don't know if the opponent has made any special progress in the past 10 years, and his strength has been raised to the peak of the heaven level. Of course, no matter how much her strength changed, it wouldn't be as big as her transformation into a human beauty. Jia Yan felt a trembling feeling in his heart when he thought of this existence, and he quickly distracted himself from thinking about it. As for besides her, there are probably some powerful people on the earth. After all, Jia Yan brought several heaven-level beings to this place. By the way, Madam Sheriff, maybe it was sent by Daphne through gravitational wave transmission. Jia Yan suddenly thought of this. He had never heard of the gravitational wave transmission method in the Northern Star Territory. Presumably the general trend of transmission there is not to use gravitational waves, so this can be regarded as one of the leading points of the immortal arm. It is just gravity. The transmission of waves naturally cannot achieve the efficiency and accuracy of space compression. Once you have figured this out, some things can be understood directly. He had heard before that the Rulan Empire's semi-combat aircraft carrier had also sent a forward team to attack. In Jia Yan's opinion, the Earth at this moment did not make much progress at all, and the forward troops sent by the other party could be eliminated. At the edge of the solar system, maybe it was because Daphne helped transport a lot of manpower and materials from behind. However, the semi-combat aircraft carrier is about to arrive, and Jia Yan does not think that the Earth at this moment will be able to kill or repel it. Of course, there is no need to worry about this kind of thing. Jia Yan is here, what else do you need to worry about? Back then, he was just an early star in the sky, and he was able to destroy a semi-combat aircraft carrier of the Asta Empire. At this moment, his strength has improved by an unknown amount, and he is even more equipped with the fighting methods taught by the light and shadow monsters. If he wanted to, he could even kill this semi-combat aircraft carrier single-handedly. But Jia Yan didn't want to do this, because if he did, the existence of his clone would be exposed. God knows if those two empires also have strong backups, or use certain methods in future wars. After all, there is only one person in Jia Yan. If he guards the Earth, the enemy will not be able to attack it. However, the Earth will never leave the interstellar space in the future. If he attacks, the Earth itself will be attacked and Jia Yan will not be able to rescue him. After thinking for a long time, he decided to hide in the dark and see how the war would turn out in the next 10 days. At worst, if there is huge damage on the Earth, all he can do is help. At this moment, Jia Yan is not like before, and he has no idea of helping the people on Earth who are injured, because he understands that his clone also has energy limitations. If people on Earth need his help for everything, then wait until his energy is consumed. After all, people on Earth in the future will not be able to protect themselves and will still easily fall into crisis. At this moment, Jia Yan just wants to see the combat power of the Earth itself first, and then decide under what circumstances to take action. Sir, it is really difficult to enter the Jia family's defense team. We tried several times before arranging for a being to enter. But don't worry, this being is also a prefecture-level talented person. At this moment, he has entered the Jia family. As long as there is some accident, if he controls a Jia family member, it will be enough to make the entire Earth Alliance fear us. Just as Jia Yan was thinking about future arrangements in the woods, he suddenly heard a human being quietly hiding in the woods whispering there. Huh? He is actually a person who wants to destroy the Jia family. Jia Yan looked over in surprise. To Jia Yan, this being was naturally not a strong person. Although he had Earth-level strength, to Jia Yan, he was really no more powerful than an ant. As for the forces that want to deal with the Jia family, Jia Yan is not surprised at all. After all, there are countless people on the earth, and they cannot all be a whole. For Jia Yan, if there is no such thing as opposition forces are the strange thing. After all, even when he was on earth, there were countless opposition forces. It is very strange for Jia Yan that there is no chaos on earth at this moment. He has no intention of arresting these forces one by one and attacking them. As far as the Jia family is concerned, at this moment, there is not only Jia Qi, the prefecture-level niece, but also the lady of the sheriff. But a heaven-level peak, even if a being on this earth really throws a nuclear bomb, she might have a way to solve it. After all, she is not only physically powerful, but unlike Jia Yan, she also has technological weapons. At this moment, Jia Yan only heard the word defense team through the other party's words. Well, the garrison, or something like the bodyguard team that protects Kikai. Okay. I'll try to join it. I think this way I can get closer to my family. I can also protect them better. Jia Yan smiled, but although he didn't want to get to the bottom of the existence of the person who wanted to destroy the Jia family, since he was in front of him, Jia Yan had no idea of letting go. Puff. Just when the man continued to report something to the other side, there was a soft sound, and the existence's mind was turned into a ball of mud, but it could not be seen from the outside. Jia Yan did not want his blood to ruin the Jia family's life. There will be no stains on the place. Jia Yan didn't care how panicked the forces behind the scenes were because of the death of this being. If a person who is close to the venerable wants to do something, the efficiency is terrible. Just half a day later, Jia Yan appeared in a team secretly accompanying and training the security forces of the Jia family. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 712. Everyone wants to serve as a member of the Jia family, the most powerful family on the planet. At this moment, we only ask for one thing, and that is loyalty. Can you tell me whether you can be loyal in the future? In a certain secret place, a tall and large being was questioning a group of more than 50 people below. Yes, Jia Yan's clone's voice roared loudly in the crowd. The people around looked at Jia Yan strangely, but the strong man at the head nodded with satisfaction. Very good, it seems that some of you know what you are here to do. He spoke with a solemn expression, and then there was an extremely exciting look in his expression. You are all beings recruited from various secret locations before. Everyone is an elite among the elite. At the same time, regarding your identity, I don't care which country you were an elite in before, or what height you have reached before. But here, your ultimate goal is to be responsible for the safety of the Jia family. Even if necessary, risking your own life to block bullets is a basic necessity. Do you understand? I understand. This time it was Jia Yan who was the first to shout. But at this moment, he attracted the attention of the man above. He pointed at Jia Yan's clone and said somewhat strangely, "Here, come out." Jia Yan took a big step and walked out in front of everyone. After returning to Earth for a day, this was the first time he appeared in front of human beings in front of everyone, but at this time, his face was wearing a strange mask. "Why are you wearing a mask?" the strong man asked strangely. "Because I was injured during a previous mission," Jia Yan replied without any panic. "Take it off and take a look," the strong man frowned. Jia Yan shrugged, but still took off his mask as instructed. Under the mask, there are indeed scars. Jia Yan wanted to sneak into this group, so he naturally didn't want his appearance to be similar to that of the former Jia Yan to attract others' attention. As for the scars on the face under the mask, it is extremely simple for Jia Yan to do this to the clone. In fact, this garrison also happened to be in the midst of a big recruitment drive. Jia Yan wanted to sneak into the Jia family half a day ago, and happened to hear many humans talking about this matter within dozens of kilometers. The Jia family is a reclusive family, but it does exist. Even though many people did not know the specific recruitment details this time, some rumors spread, and many ordinary city residents understood that the Jia family was in recruit secretly. And this recruitment has strange details, that is, as long as you have a recruitment qualification issued by certain forces to strong people, your identity will not matter, what is required is your strength. The Jin family naturally has this strength and confidence, and Jia Yan also understands that this is the Lord Sheriff, the one who gave birth to his child, as a final test method behind his back. With this strong man, the people of Earth, the strongest is only heaven-level strength, and there is basically no possibility of lying under his methods. As long as it was helpful to the Jia family, no one would investigate the past or anything. Jia Yan saw this clearly and then snatched a certain poor man's recruitment qualification certificate. Well, you are indeed injured, and you are still at the mid-prefecture level. It seems that you are strong enough. Not bad, the big man added Jia Yan's codename, MOK, to the list of key points to watch. You must know that the first people on the entire Earth to practice the brainwave power training skills that Jia Yan released back then were 10 years ago. In 10 years, they were able to practice to the mid-prefecture level, and there was still almost no guidance from their predecessors. Come on, you can be considered a genius. When Jia Yan was called back into the team, the big man naturally didn't care about Jia Yan's loyalty. In the future, he understood that there would be a truly terrifying existence in Jia's family, and he would conduct lie detection on all the people here. Okay, you come from all the forces on the Earth, and you are also geniuses in each force. But when you come to the Jia family, you will understand what a real genius is like, and you will also understand what a real strong person is like. There are some people, you want to meet those powerful Earth fleet executives and get their guidance, you will have the opportunity here, but you need to complete the Jia family's test. There are more than 50 people here, can you really enter the Jia family? Yes, there will only be 40 people, and at least 10 people will be eliminated. I understand that you have already passed tests and competitions before coming here, but the competitions and tests here will be more difficult. There is even a possibility of death. If anyone wants to leave first, you can come forward and we will not make it difficult for you. The strong man said these words, but no one came forward after a long time. Are you kidding me? They, a group of more than 50 people, really had to go through 5 hurdles and defeat 6 generals before they came here. Some people even risked their lives to get this opportunity. God knows. Among these 50 people, how many lives were behind them to reach this final testing place, so who would want to quit at this moment? Very good, let's take the test next. The strong man obviously knew that this would be the result. After smiling lightly, he stood away directly. There is a huge technological equipment behind him. It is very huge and seems to be as tall as a 2- or 3-story building. This is the latest strength test instrument developed by Earth Fleet researchers. Its function is to test your true brainwave power. After all, there will be a huge energy difference between the mid-Earth level and the mid-Earth level. Go up, let's see. Let's see what your true strength is. One by one, the reserve members of the defense team stepped forward, and then the instrument roared. With such a crude instrument, I think the existences of these Earth fleets really haven't grown much in the past 10 years. Jia Yan looked at the huge equipment and did this just to test the brainwave power. The huge thing made him suffer from embarrassment. At this moment, he felt that the scientific research enthusiasts he brought back were not enough. But what he didn't know was that Jia Yan had been to the more prosperous Northern Star Territory and other places. Of course he felt that this machine was relatively primitive, but it was really at this level in Yingxian arm, and what he brought was indeed at the enthusiast level. There are many scientific researchers, and their main focus is on the research and development of weapons. It is a very good result to be able to develop this kind of testing instrument now. The first tester entered, and then the machine roared and the light flashed. After a while, this person walked out with some exaggeration. On the original scale instrument, the pointer pointed to the value of mid-prefecture level 2. There are 3 levels of Earth level in total, and among the 3 levels, there are 10 scales on this instrument, which are the early 10th level, the middle 10th level, and the late 10th level. Of course, Jia Yan looked at it. None of the reserve entities have reached the late stage, they are all in the middle stage of Yi Shui. There are also early stage ones, but very few. What he emitted was also in the midterm, but he estimated that if he went in, the pointer would reach the 9 scale of the midterm value. The first place existence was only at the mid-level level 2. The big man nodded without any surprise. Although this existence was at the mid-level prefecture level, its combat power could not be strong. It was just a cannon fodder in the mid-level level. The reserve members who went up next used all their strength to exude their brainwave power, but none of them reached above 8 degrees. Just in front of Jia Yan, a man with a scar on his face stepped forward. His strength surprised the strong man. 9? It seems that there is a good prospect among the personnel recruited this time. After the guidance of several adults in the Jia family, it may be possible to become a late-stage presence in the short term. The strong man nodded with satisfaction. Of course, he has nothing to fear, because he himself is a late-stage existence, and can be said to be the most powerful group of people on Earth today. It's your turn. I hope your marks won't be bad. The scarred man stepped back and Jia Yan stepped forward. When the strong man saw it was him, he was impressed and encouraged Jia Yan directly. Haha, I appreciate your good words. Jia Yan didn't have the slightest sense of respect and just smiled. Watching him enter the equipment freely and easily, look for the book garden. The strong man behind shook his head strangely. He felt that he could not see through this masked man. But under the machine, the opponent's strength and details will be directly exposed without any hiding. The machine started to roar. Jia Yan, who was inside the machine, looked at the surrounding scene and saw that there seemed to be some rays coming out of the machine. It turns out that radiation is used to determine strength. It's really too primitive. And it's not good for the tester's health, but it's just a momentary thing and won't have much impact on the future. Jia Yan shook his head helplessly. He thought for a while, and controlled the brainwave power he radiated to a level above 9 degrees in the midterm, which was a little higher than the previous existence, and was only a hair away from reaching the late-stage Earth level. 9 degrees. Still just a little bit close to the late stage, an absolute good seedling. He can reach this level in the outside world through his own cultivation. If he is taught by those beings within the Geo family, he might become another prefecture level late stage in the future. Exist, the strong man's eyes almost fell out when he saw Jia Yan's achievements. His strength was only 2 degrees in the late prefecture level. With this difference in strength, although he was sure that he could easily defeat a being like Jia Yan's clone, but the opponent's talent should not be bad. Maybe it won't be long before he can be on par with him under the guidance of a strong person. When Jia Yan stepped out of the machine, the strong man's attitude toward Jia Yan became even better. You must know that the time of everyone's cultivation will not be too different, because the giant Mosquito clan has only released brainwave power for a few years. This strong man reached the late prefecture level because he served as the deputy captain of the garrison in Jia's family. The reason why I was pointed out several times. If this alternate member named Moke joins the Jia family, even if he still can't catch up with him in the future, he won't be far behind. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 713. Very good, the next step is actual combat. I hope you can maintain your previous state. Even if your brainwave power is 28, don't worry. In the prefecture level strength, as long as the brainwave power is not different by more than 5 degrees, there will be possibility of winning. Those who are excellent in actual combat, even if their brainwave power is insufficient, we will consider it. Arriving in another open field, this group of beings continued to be led by a strong man. This place is not far from the Jinn family, and the guards here can even hear the smiling voice of the little girl there. But it looks close, but feels far away. They still need to pass another test before they can enter the most mysterious and terrifying family in the world. Of course, no one would think that the Geo family themselves are powerful. What makes them powerful is the energy behind them, because the Geo family represents the Earth fleet, which is a terrifying behemoth that can fight aliens. Here to participate among the members of the defense team, there are several who were born in the Earth fleet. They understand better than others how powerful the Geo family is in the Earth fleet. In the past few months, the Earth fleet had an exercise in lunar orbit, but it was suddenly interrupted. I heard that the eldest princess of the Geo family, Princess Geokai, who has the most powerful brain waves on Earth, suddenly went to the moon to play. No, I came to the moon to inspect the exercise. The entire fleet finished the exercise and lined up to welcome them. The energy of the Geo family is really beyond imagination. Who says it's not? To tell you the truth, I am from the underground alien instrument development team. As you know, there are alien ruins in many places underground, but there are also many terrifying creatures inside. It is said that part of these ruins are the little princess who was left behind by the people of the Asta Empire insisted on conducting some school observation last time, and then suddenly a strong team came and directly eliminated a certain ruins that we had not successfully cleared for several years. At that time I saw a legendary heaven-level master. Even such a master can command, which shows the energy of the Geo family. Several reserve members kept muttering about the horrible remarks made by the Geo family in the past. Some of the gossip involved were told with such certainty that even Jia Yan, who was listening in front of him, felt a little embarrassed. He didn't expect that his little niece had so many bad things in her past. And the two little ones at the back haven't grown up yet. Maybe these three little guys will mess up the entire Earth's forces in the future. But it doesn't matter. As long as it's not a major matter of murder and arson, let them make the trouble, Jia Yan thought with some amusement. On Earth, he has paid a lot. This kind of trivial things are just children's play to Jia Yan, and they are harmless. Just as Jia Yan was listening to the rumors of the Geo family being carried out by several reserve personnel at the rear, the big man from the garrison had already brought them to the huge venue. After that, they were divided into several teams and were drawn by lots. Those who got the same lot would have a battle. Of course, this kind of drawing could be controlled. Most of them were beings with similar strength fighting. Without any surprise, Jia Yan fought with the being with the scar. Boy, are you 20 years old? I advise you not to fight with me. I am known as Chen Beisha. In the past when metal monsters were raging, I killed no less than 100 people. If you dare to fight with me, don't blame me if you die. The scarred face walked to Jia Yan viciously and said coldly. I've killed hundreds of people. It's amazing. Jia Yan nodded indifferently, seemingly casually. Humph, if you want to die, don't blame me for being cruel. The man suddenly became even colder when he saw that Jia Yan didn't show any fear towards him. The competition in the field began. Jia Yan really had no intention of watching a battle at this level. Especially their use of brainwave power really made Jia Yan dumbfounded. These beings actually wanted to using Earth-level brainwave power to control the bodies of masters with similar strength. Isn't this something that only Starry Sky masters can do with their true ability to control the environment? Do these guys think they are masters of the venerable level? Using brainwave power to control beings of similar strength is simply thankless. Jia Yan wanted to hide his face, but even if he didn't look at his strength, he was so close. The battle will definitely be received by his head, and the extremely low-end battle will almost make him fall asleep. In Jia Yan's view, these reserve personnel of the defense team still rely on their own body energy. Although they use brainwave power to control the opponent's actions, it may have a great effect on opponents whose brainwave power is far lower than theirs. But actually using it against characters with similar strength is not that simple. At this moment, each of them still looks like they are winning with weapons or fists. Okay, next group, MOK vs Chen Bing. After a few scenes, the strong man read out the names of the next group of fighters. As soon as the names of the two sides in this battle came out, the faces of all the characters in the whole scene were shocked, because Moke, the most powerful existence in the reserve battle with brainwave power, faced off against another brain. Chen Bing, who is not weak in wave power, can be said to be head-to-head with Mai Mang. The battle between the two is expected to be very exciting. The two of them came to the field together. The Chen Bing looked at Jia Yan coldly, with a hint of murderous intent in his cold eyes. This MOK is a bit dangerous. I know Chen Beixia. It turned out that he was sentenced to death because he killed too many people. Later, the investigation found that when the metal monsters invaded the Earth, most of his murders were to save others, so he got forgiveness, but since then, his spirit has been murderous. It is said that when he fought with his opponent before, he broke his ribs. So fierce. The whispers in the audience were not enough to affect the two people in the audience. Chen Beixia looked at Jia Yan with his hands behind his back and kept wandering around. But Jia Yan just stood there. As an extremely terrifying existence, even if he pretended to be a weak existence at this moment, he could not give up his bearing as a terrifying and strong man. He put his hands behind his back and just looked at Chen Beixia with a faint smile. Die. Suddenly, Chen Beixia saw that Jia Yan was almost full of flaws, and finally couldn't help but pick up the dagger in his hand and slash towards Jia Yan's body where no harm would be done. He has restrained himself. At this last moment of the battle, he does not want to be unable to enter Jia's house because of hurting others. But when he took action, he saw the young man standing in front of him shaking his head with a smile. Then he saw the dagger in his hand disappear. Chen Beixia was shocked. When he opened his eyes, he saw MOK playing with a sharp dagger in his hand. If this dagger doesn't belong to him, who does it belong to? Chen Beixia's eyes widened. Just now he felt his hand loosen, and then the dagger in his hand fell into the hands of the young man in front of him who seemed to be indifferent. This. Even the strong man on one side was shocked at this moment, because even he had not seen how MOK did it. What's even more terrifying is that in the series of actions, the being named MOK did not seem to use energy fluctuations exceeding the Earth level. Just now, he also felt a faint mid-Earth level brainwave power in the air. And then Chen Beixia's dagger came into the opponent's hands. At this moment, this late-stage heaven-level being seemed to vaguely understand another way to use the power of brain waves, but the scene just now was so fast that he had no way of studying it. At this moment, a kind of understanding was blocked in his heart, and he suddenly felt there seems to be a little mouse running around in my heart, but I can't release it. It's so uncomfortable. A member of the reserve team of the prefecture-level defense team below also had an expression that looked like he had seen a ghost. No one saw Jia Yan take action. Who is this? MOK? How could he be so powerful? I clearly didn't feel that he used power beyond the Earth-level hibernation period, but how did he do it? This is not the point. The point is that his midterm strength can do such terrible things. Doesn't it mean that our strength can also reach this level? A status level being seems to have seen a powerful direction because of Jia Yan's grasp. Okay, I win this one, right? Jia Yan smiled, then squeezed it gently, and the dagger was crushed in his hand. This hand made everyone around him take a breath of air. You win, the strong man's face changed drastically. Only then did he know that this MOK was not only powerful in terms of brainwave power, but also in terms of physical strength. The way of using it is also extremely terrifying. At the end of the day, there is only one existence from one place with such terrifying fighting power. After a few hasty battles, the strong man announced the final result. But those who entered the garrison did not feel much joy, did not have the presence of entry, and did not show the painful look of losers in the past. At this moment, they were all frightened by an extremely terrifying teammate. The name of this being is MOK. Although his strength is only in the middle of the prefecture level, the way he controls power and the terrifying actual combat effects make them feel shocked. It turns out that the strength of the prefecture level can reach this level. And Chen Baixia was even more shocked by Jia Yan's strength. He not only lost in brainwave power, but also in all aspects. In front of MOK, he felt that he was not even qualified to take action. As for the strong man, he looked at Jia Yan deeply, then went to the side and dialed a certain number. Jia Yan noticed his move a long time ago and smiled softly. Before his call was connected. Hundreds of kilometers away, in the former Shanghai city, now the headquarters of the Earth Alliance, a monster known as the Marshal of the Earth Alliance fleet is currently worrying about the upcoming war.